There were now only 2 worlds left that the Moon Lord desired to make his own. Having already turned the existence of 2 entire planets inside out, he felt himself above all, incapable of being stopped, an inevitable force of the universe. It was now, though, that he would begin to face some of his greatest challenges. For all of his power, he was but one, and the world that awaited him knew of his machinations, of his cosmic ancestry, for they too were the products of the ancient and twisted schemes of the Outer Gods.
Gods had begun. Humanity had all players deep and challenging, with different is less likely to get me horribly
Glowing with cosmic energy, the next planet the Moon Lord approached was not like the others, where life on the other worlds had evolved over epochs of time like that of any other planet. The creatures here had been created in ages long past, to serve a particular function. In the early days of the universe, when Azathoth first dreamt of existence, the Nameless Mist, firstborn of the Demon Sultan, looked upon her father's creation with great disappointment. His mind, she felt, was rigid, lacking imagination. Even she herself lacked any sort of physical form, a simple, all-knowing mist that permeated all facets of the fledgling cosmos. She wrestled with the void of creation until she could take its vapid silence no more. She too, like her father, was capable of dreaming into existence whatever she pleased, only where it was only natural for him, it would take all of her strength, leaving her weak and dispersed for eons to come. What she had created were the first of the Stardust Weavers, creatures that could go out into existence, replicate and shape the universe into something more. Across creation they would sow the seeds of stars, galaxies, and life across 1,000 worlds. By now the Nameless Mist was able to reconstitute and sire her first true offspring. Other Outer Gods, including the crawling chaos that would bring so much calamity to Terraria, had arrived into a bountiful reality, and the Weavers had been all but forgotten. Their task was over, and they were now expected to fade back into the fabric of existential consciousness from whence they had come. Instead, they had persisted, crafted an entire race and culture, even forming a planet to live on. They wished not to be disturbed by the turmoil of the gods who had created them, and only ventured away from their homeworld to repair any damage to the space-time they had woven. For the longest time they succeeded in their attempts to remain secluded, so much to the extent that the Moon Lord had no idea of their origins when he found them. All he knew was that these mighty summoners would make a fine addition to his fighting force, but before he could even make planetfall, he had been surrounded, trapped into a web of cosmic energy, and was being watched by beings of intellect beyond even his. He would rage at the web, striking out with ever greater blows, for no prison could contain the mighty Elder God, but in time he would learn the humility his conquest had so far lacked. Only now was he at last confronted by the masterminds of the galactic creators. They were bulbous, tentacled heads, their brains exposed just as that of the Moon Lords. Such symmetry was hardly coincidental, the Moon Lord had concluded. These were beings of cosmic essence, able to take any form they chose, and so it seemed they deemed his to be fitting. Realizing that this world would not simply be conquered like the others, he would open a dialogue, explaining to the clearly intelligent creatures of his celestial brethren, and how their rule would lead to naught but universal chaos, how he had searched the stars for those worthy of joining his crusade, and how those he stood before were indeed worthy. His rhetoric and half-truths were met with silence though, for they had seen through him, extrapolated his mind and being totally, and were in an instant prepared to erase his entire existence. And yet they hesitated. The Moon Lord was a devious and treacherous soul if ever they had encountered one, but he had offered them something they had not had in a truly long time. For all they had done for the universe, all the meaning they had brought to it, they themselves now lacked purpose itself. For as self-serving as his agenda was, it was an agenda, a goal, reason to be. And besides, for epochs they had observed the universal goings-on, and had seen the way the descendants of Azathoth had treated their existence, and agreed that they did not deserve to persist in such a place. Even if the Moon Lord may turn out worse, they now knew that they could overpower him, and when the time came, reforge existence in a new image. A better image. One without the scourge of the Demon Sultan's polluted mind. But of course all this was kept from the Moon Lord, for his mind was as feeble as the others, easy to conceal from, and so it was. Of their own volition the entities of Stardust joined with the Moon Lord. Willingly they became part of his army, and made the Elder God believe that he had subjugated them, at least until it would be their time. As with the other races, the Moon Lord desired to incorporate his own DNA into some of the masterminds, and so they submitted, taking the appearance of what the Moon Lord deemed to be a superior being. But little did he know that rather than inject his DNA into theirs, they had infected him with a piece of their own being. As the Moon Lord directed them to create weapons and creatures of war, that piece of them grew within him, and soon it would make the dominated consciousness of the alien Empress. The Weavers could do almost anything, create a new body for the Empress even, promise her and her kind a place in their new reality, and with that it would only be a matter of time. From here, they would insidiously work against him to achieve their own ends. And when that time finally came, and the Moon Lord met his inevitable end, a far greater threat may be unleashed on the universe. But for now, they remained dormant, allowed the Moon Lord to go about its business, for there was yet more to do. 3 of his 4 targets had joined him, and now the Moon Lord felt there would be no way they could stop him and his already substantial army. It just so happened though, that his next target were the only ones who would be able to turn his entire fighting force against him, ending his schemes as well as those of the Stardust Weavers, once and for all.
Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and want to support the channel, then please consider subscribing and hit that bell so that YouTube might possibly inform you when a new video comes out. If you want to go that bit further, please feel free to support the channel on Patreon or go and buy some merchandise on Spreadshirt and Teespring. Links are all down in the description. Other than that, have a great day and I'll see you next time.